next speaker is a local software developer. Let's get a big round of applause for Rodney Mach. All right, testing. Okay. My talk today is about the impending invasion from a new invader that we have called Asian carp. This fish grows up to 100 pounds and can jump 10 feet in the air, and so it injures boaters and maims canoeists and threatens our $7 billion fishing industry. And the problem when these fish get into the Great Lakes is each fish actually produces 1 million eggs, and each one of those million eggs produces a million eggs. And these fish eat 40% of their body weight per day, so that's 40 pounds of food per day that these fish eat. That starves out our native fish like bass and pike, and it creates a problem that we're going to wipe out our native species. And you can't catch these fish on a line and hook because they're actually filter feeders. So our government's basically taking a three-pronged approach to this. We're going to try to kill these fish, we're going to try to sell these fish, or we're going to try to sue anybody who tries to bring these fish into the state. So how are we going to try to get rid of them? Well, the first thing we're going to try to do is we're going to try to basically eat them into extinction. And so how are we going to do that? Well, nobody wants to eat a nasty sounding fish like the carp. So the state has recommended that we call it the silverfin. So you're going to see silverfin on all your menus. And you might think that how's that going to work? Naming a fish isn't going to wipe it out. But we've actually done that. There's a fish called the Patagonian toothfish. It used to be abundant in the ocean until it got the unfortunate circumstance to be renamed the Chilean sea bass. And now it's on the endangered species list. We can't get it off the menu because it sounds so tasty. So we have a chicken and egg problem. How are we going to get people to eat this fish? We need people to produce the fish and ship the fish and pack the fish. So the states are going to band together. We're going to make prisoners eat the fish. That creates some demand. So if you get to go to the state penitentiary, you'll get a chance to eat some silverfish. Now, if that doesn't work, there's a plan in place. There's some factories in Chicago that are going to take this biomass, produce fertilizer, and produce some other things like omega-3 and soup. If that doesn't work, there's another group of entrepreneurs who've got a great idea. Why don't we take a bunch of people with bows and arrows and stick them on a boat? We'll drive you around, and when the fish jump through the air, we're going to shoot them. And you can see this on YouTube, and this is an extreme sport because this girl actually got her jaw broken when a fish jumped through the air and hit her jaw while she was trying to shoot it with a bow and arrow. So we're trying to kill the fish. We have to find them. And so there's a new science called eDNA. It's called environmental DNA. We use that to try to find where the fish are, where the fish are going, so that we can try to cut them off at the pass. So once we use eDNA, the spot where these fish are entering the Great Lakes, we go in and we try to poison them. So recently they had eDNA. They had a huge swath of river. They poisoned over 100,000 pounds of fish were killed, but not one of them was an Asian carp. So they actually need to perfect the poisons and the science of that, but they are working on it. The most effective method we have right now is electrocution. There's two barriers in Chicago. This is all that's keeping these fish out of the Great Lakes is these two electrical barriers, and we're trying to build a third because the first two aren't effective and they're getting through. So hopefully the electrocution works, but if not, the federal government's researching pheromones. And so we put this in the water. The Asian carp think that it's a female. They come and group up, and we have a better chance to kill them. If that doesn't work, there's also some research into doing genetic engineering. So what we're going to use with this genetic engineering is introduce a carp that will reproduce with the native carp, and then they'll produce fish that maybe don't live as long or have other problems. I mean, because what possibly could go wrong with that? So, if genetic engineering doesn't work, they're developing a gigantic underwater hydro gun. And this is basically an underwater speaker that blasts sound at the fish, and it'll stun them or kill them. And I don't know if it's going to be like very wide or what it's going to be, but there is a plan to do this. It could be an effect. These fish out of the Great Lakes are an Asian carp. Now, the next thing is we have this carp-infested swamp that connects to the Great Lakes. So the plan is to build a gigantic fence across the swamp to keep them from crossing over. And they got this idea because how effective this has been in our border security. So you might see a fence. But Chicago's the real problem. Chicago's where these carp are coming in. Chicago loves their carp. We've tried to stop Chicago's carp-infested waters from getting into the Great Lakes through some locks that they have, and we've actually tried to get them to close those locks. There's a lawsuit brought by the states that went all the way to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't, unfortunately, rule in our favor. Our new Attorney General is trying to bring that case back with a little twist to see if we can get them to close those locks and give us some time to figure out how to actually stop them from entering the Great Lakes. So if you're thinking the federal government's not taking this seriously, they've appointed a federal carp czar, and his job is to dissipate the federal funds that are, all these things that I've talked about are in their plan and how they're funding different ideas. So if you have a better idea than this, you can apply for federal money and start your company. So if you want to learn more about Asian carp, go to asiancarp.org. And you can do your part. You can try to eat some carp. You can give it to your friends for their birthday or give it as a Christmas gift. And next week, guys, is Valentine's Day, and nothing says love like a slice of unfortunately, ruling our favor.